All right, my name is Ryan Hibbert, and I am the training manager at Dynics. I've been with the company about a year, and I was tasked with a couple of things. They first brought me in to revamp the ProView DS class, or HMI software. But then pretty quickly after that, they wanted me to start looking at this ICS 360 Defender and getting some training built for that. So the kind of the roadmap of the past, what brought us to where we're at the present, in Q1 of 2021, we did a total revamp of the ProView DS class. And the important thing that's even relevant to the ICS Defender class is we built trainers. We actually have dedicated trainers with the hardware from Dynics to actually use in the class. So when you do a ProView class or you do a Defender class, you're going to have a computer set up, dedicated with all the software, everything ready to go, and you just sit down and learn. And that's worked out very well. And then Q2 and Q3 of last year, I developed the ICS 360 Defender class and did a couple of pilots with it. And the important thing is the pilot classes that I did really gave me a lot of information. There was a lot of things that can be improved in the class. So we took those reviews to heart and started to revise the class towards the end of last year. And one of the things that was really lacking based on the reviews and some of the peers that I've talked to about this is that we needed more troubleshooting and diagnostics on both classes, whether it's the HMI PVDS or the Defender class. So looking at the future, we want to create the ICS 360 Fusion class. As you can see from Jeff's presentation, it's a very cool piece of software. It's going to really, I think, make a big impact for a lot of people that want to be able to do that kind of customization and movement of data. And the way that it's done, it really will require some training to get people up to speed on how to do those flows and how to really make the best use of that software. Another thing that we're looking at doing is on top of the hardware that we have, which are basically our computers that have the ProView DS class and the ICS Defender that you can log into from those computers. We're also looking at building an enhanced trainer, which would actually be a dedicated PLC/switch/whatever it is that we want to add, and have the students connect to those and actually use these dedicated hardware during the class. We think that's very important, and we are looking actively right now at actually building something out for that. The other thing that's very important, and this is based on last year's feedback that we got, is we want to start looking at remote learning. So in Q4 of this year, we want to see how we could take advantage of remote learning. Now, when we talk about remote learning, it could be that you still set up a class, but people can log into the trainer and log into Teams or something like this and be able to do the class virtually. I piloted this in a PVDS class and it worked pretty well. The only thing that was required was some physical movement of cables, but everything else worked pretty well. So we're looking at doing that in the ICS 360 Defender class as well. And then the SDN switches and technology that Jeff just talked about. We should have a class dedicated to that, and we're looking at Q4 of 2022 to do that. So let's take a look at the way the ICS 360 Defender class, the way it currently exists. It's a 3-day class. We teach it at the Dynics facility in Ann Arbor. On the first day, we focus on the setup of the ICS 360 Defender. We introduce the web console, which you've seen screenshots and people use. We go through simple NAT and standard NAT. And the nice thing is that the wizards are very well done, and we show how to use those in the class. We show the dashboards and status screens that are available to use. The second day, we look at some of the firewall concepts that are important to know. Virtual IPs, one-to-one NATs, rules, rule sets, and eventually the DPI. We look at aliasing and how aliasing really does help with grouping things and being able to apply rules to it. We look at remote access, OpenVPN. We set up an OpenVPN server and clients right in the class and demonstrate how to remotely access it. And then the third day, we look at DPI. We have Rockwell PLCs, control logics dedicated to the class, and we show up how to grab rule sets that are already predefined, put them in, and add whatever filtering and restrictions you want. And then we look at system logs to look up all the information about what is being transferred back and forth on all of the Defender units. And then the DCC, depending on how much time, we actually have some add-on materials for the DCC. And then the grand finale exercise. And the important thing is this entire class uses troubleshooting and diagnostics throughout the entire thing. And I'll show you in a couple more slides just how we did that. Now, the ProView DS class, which is our HMI platform, that's a 4-day class, and I'll just briefly go over this. Day 1, we kind of go through the ProView DS class, do an overview, look at the development environment, and look at navigating a project. Day 2, we look at creating a project, creating tags, adding PLCs to it, and talking back and forth to local and remote databases. Day 3, we look at alarms and alarm history. We look at user and group security. Then we do scripting using C#. And then we look at the all-important debugging tools and techniques. And then day 4, we look at publishing projects, deployment of runtimes, best practices when you're trying to communicate to one or more PLCs and a larger network, and then again, another grand finale exercise. And of course, troubleshooting and diagnostic techniques are identified and demonstrated throughout the entire class. So this is my philosophy on training. The KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. It's something that you should definitely make sure that you're talking at the person that you're training. And one of the things that I do is make sure to interview everybody to get an idea of what level each of my students are at, and try to keep this easily digestible. So yeah, knowing my target audience. When I interview, I'm gaining information. Who's my target audience? What do they need to know out of this? Keep the students engaged. The exercise files are very heavily engaging because it requires you to go through and actually complete all of the steps that were taught during the lecture. A lot of hands-on. So everything that's done in the exercises is geared towards building a finished product, whether it's a completed network, whether it's a virtual network, whether it's a ProView DS project, whatever it happens to be. They need to get in there and they need to be able to do a lot of hands-on. And then the big thing is at the end of every class, we do reviews. We have them fill out an online survey, And we listen to those. We actually read those and listen to them and adapt accordingly. And then the big thing is lots of troubleshooting. It's nice to know how to program something, but it's almost equally as important to know how to diagnose and fix it if there's a problem. Or common mistakes that you can run into when you're using software or configuring something for the first time. So just as an example, when I did a pilot class in September of last year, these are some of the comments that I got. Would be awesome to have course exercises for each topic covered. Sure. Having troubleshooting built into the class exercises would be helpful. That turned on a light bulb for me. Just have exercises for students to work through. So obviously, when we first did the pilot, we were a little bit light on exercises, but this comment about troubleshooting built into the class was really got my attention. So as a result, I created the Defender Essentials Student Exercises Workbook. And this was created, and it has troubleshooting built into it. So this workbook is actually purposefully full of bugs. When they go through and actually go through these exercises, it's going to purposefully have bugs that they have to fix. And then when they fix them, they have to write down, what did you have to do to fix this, so they know 6 months later what they had to do. And these are things that I actually ran into when I was developing this, when I was first learning this. All of these things I put into there as troubleshooting exercises built right into each one of these. So each one of the sections that I teach, from what I was showing you on the previous slide, has an exercise dedicated to it, and it's troubleshooting built in, because they all have bugs and they all need to be fixed. So as an example there, setting up a simple NAT, somebody puts in the northbound address for a NAT connection, but it's also duplicating what they're set up for their administrating console. And obviously you can't do that, so that's one of the first bugs they have to fix, is change the IP address so that they're not conflicting with one another. And then the grand finale, to put kind of the icing on the cake, is what about providing some project, in the case of the ICS 360 class, the Defender class, let's give them a project that they download into their Defender full of bugs. And they have to get it communicating and working like they originally had on their original project.
Just get one from Dave.
Yeah. So over on the left here is just the grand finale exercise. It says grab this file, download it, and go through each one of these parts and fix everything. You can't access the web controls. My one-to-one NAT functionality isn't working. I can't access the PLC over the OpenVPN. And my DPI, in that case, just go ahead and set it up to work with DPI for Rockwell. Same thing with the ProView class. I went in retroactively and added a ProView project that was similar to the finished one that they built through the class, but it has a bunch of bugs in it. So, the hypothetical situation is you downloaded this ProView project, and the production and maintenance guys are saying, hey, we got a bunch of problems here, so you got to go in and fix it. And it uses all the concepts that were taught during the class to go in and finish this grand finale. And like I mentioned, these are our very, very well-constructed industrial level trainers that we're using. And as you can see, we got the ICS 360 Defender config. We got ProView DS running on there. You network them all together with PLCs and a remote database if we're using that. And the idea is to even expand on this more. Start having trainers with more hardware, more than just the Defender units, but PLCs, maybe even Ethernet I/O devices that we can activate and deactivate with the DPI. So now questions to you guys. what is your idea of the perfect training environment? And what I mean by that is in-house, remote, virtual. What's the best environment for training? Yes, sir.
Real world. Have them go out to a facility they've never been to before and set it up like it's the real thing.
OJT, huh?
Yes, sir.
On the job training. Boy, put somebody under the, boy, you get a,
Good. Oh, man, get the other off that. Isn't it?
all right. Okay. Yeah, that's, I've done OJT before, but yeah, that'd be a fun one. Would you have a dedicated area to do that? Okay.
Yeah, maybe one of those old rundown warehouses out in the middle of nowhere. Just
Okay.
driving out.
All right.
So qualities of a read, I don't know if you guys got that.
Make sure you have banjo music too.
Yeah, right.
Oh, geez.
Hey now.
Can't you make a virtual reality on the job training?
Sure you can. Sure we can. We get some micro HoloLenses and yeah, we
Everybody's good with about $5,000 class tuition, right?
yeah, that kind of ties into the next one is how important is a virtual or completely online class? Is it like critical that your company has that we have that option? That you participate completely virtual? Or have just a Udemy style class where you just do it on your own? Yes, sir.
I mean, I can speak to Jeff and I have worked on several projects that we quoted in person, and everyone's timetable turned out where, hey, you just can't get this group of people, 5 people on the same set of time to come in and do it. So I think moving forward, virtual as a fallback even is gonna be required, because some is better than none.
Mm-hmm.
And people's schedule make it so they may not ever get out for the in-person one.
Okay, so you're saying that not only should it be virtual, but it should be on their schedule. So it would be a fixed class that they would do at their own pace.
That would be good.
Okay.
In our case, it was they could fit a class in at a predetermined date, they just couldn't travel somewhere and be out for an extended period.
Okay, because yeah, that's the big delineation between, well, how do we do this where they can just remote in during the class period? Or do we have to just make it so that it's on demand and they do the training that way? And I think the next logical step is just to have the ability to remote in during the class if needed. And then the next step after that would be a total virtual class. But we got to make sure that we're covering the objectives because a lot of this has to do with actual hardware. Yes, sir.
I think that's what the priority. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're remoting in, you're going to get interrupted. That's all there is to it. So, remoting is not going to be as effective as if you can do it on your own schedule.
Yep, I agree. Yes, sir.
The one thing with the virtual reality compared to just online was the immersiveness. If you're able to virtually connect, even if it's not a physical one, but I'm moving virtual connections in a virtual work environment, you're focused on the content more than a two-dimensional screen on some content.
Oh, you were serious about that.
I did a little bit of it, and it made a difference on electrical training.
I seen that. That is cool. That is really cool.
Two-dimensional training by the trainer, and then made it virtual. And I do some Oculus Quest at home, and then being focused in a virtual environment gave me better content of depth than the two-dimensional, the same training.
Okay, so for a class like this, how would you do the physical connections? I mean, if we're hooking up.
It would be virtual equipment. It would be like 3D modeled virtual equipment.
Okay.
In the environment. You create the 3D world, and your hand, I'm moving it in a virtual world and moving the virtual connection on a virtual defender, on a virtual PLC. And that connection goes to the database or the program to identify, are you in the right space for that connection?
Interesting.
And your brain is tricked.
Oh yeah, I got a Quest. I know how powerful those things can be, but you can also burn out on those things too. The first week I got a PSVR, I almost felt like I was on the planet Mongo, because it screws with your head. So I don't know how long you can do that for.
Short burst.
Yeah.
Are you looking at in-person options where you guys come out to us versus?
Yeah, that's something too, but and that's another thing is I really feel that these classes are like an introduction and basic level. On top of that, we could do more advanced training, because if we're going to your facility, obviously we're probably going to want to look at your networks, the way they're set up. If you're doing a ProView, you want to say their projects, and you probably want to focus more on some advanced topics. So that would be kind of an as-needed basis. Yeah, that's definitely something that we're open to, but we just got to be careful about how much we can commit to doing that. So what are the of all the stuff that you guys know or were exposed to today about the ICS 360 Defender, what do you think is the most important things to be in the class? What should be taught to everybody? What was that?
JJ's phone number.
Who said that? Who originally said that?
He's already got one.
Oh, does he? All right.
Circuit protection for the thunder.
Hey, they're good up to 48 volts for sure. For sure. But somewhere between 48 and 53, they will pop.
Don't ask how much.
We had an integrator partner of ours doing some testing for us.
All right, so seriously, what should be in the class? What do you think everybody should be knowing about these things? When they walk out of the class, I need to know how to what? Wow.
I mean, what level of class, like, probably just basics class?
Yeah, if we're just doing the basics.
I mean, I think content display is just, and setting that aspect of it up, you should be able to walk out and set it up. You, not necessarily usually set up part of an expert to set it up, but you should be able to at least go out in the field and troubleshoot what's going on when you have a facility.
Okay, so I heard troubleshooting in that answer, so that's stuff.
Knowing how to review traffic.
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants the last ball?
You throw it here or you throw it there.
Okay, so here's our, if you want to get to this, you just go to resources, events. And right there is the symposium. And then if you scroll down, right about here is to fill out our survey. Please do this. It's just a Microsoft form. Just go in and really quickly put in your opinions. There's a lot of Q&A, and especially on the training portion, what it is you feel is important for training. All right, thank you, gentlemen. So any other questions? Yes, sir.
And other than the training, do you have a set up online help or help desk kind of thing?
Do we have what?
Yeah. He's asking about the help desk?
Yes.
Yes.
For support?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take support? Yeah.
Yeah, and actually all of that, right now we have Dynics who've had their long time support help desk, which has been basically hardware prior to the software stuff in 2017. So we have two that support software and ICS Defender. And all of that probably about the middle of the year is going to roll into a single site, a single help desk.
What I'm seeing, and this is where I do the old curmudgeon bitches about everything, is, training used to mean something. When you go through the Apple PLC training, you're pretty damn well sure that the guy could, follow here and into program. Now with, participatory medals for even showing up, that's not the case. I don't know You know, if there's a way of what we used to call, you know, a circle of skills or testing out, to know that not only did they attend the class,
You
You mean like a post-test or some type
yeah,
of certification?
you don't go to day 2 unless you fulfilled the requirements for day 1.
It's a very,
It's super
Back in
nice.
the circle to square one.
It's a really good idea. The union doesn't let you in many cases do that kind of evaluation. I did it last years ago for Lee Brothers Soap Companies, and I wanted to do a free test for that in their union house. And they wouldn't do that. They let each person pick the class they thought they were suited for, beginner and beginner advanced. So what I had in the beginner class was guys who were rock stars, rocket scientists, and bored silly. And I had guys who wouldn't do anything to change a light bulb, and that would be challenging in the advanced class, and their heads exploded. So it's difficult to do that. Number two, if I tell you you can't go to day 2, you ain't getting your money back, and that's not gonna go well. Yeah, they won 3 times.
That's a good point. Do you have a recommended prerequisite on your class or?
no, these are basic level classes.
Okay.
So anybody, I mean, basic Windows skills and some type of applicability to this should be is highly recommended. But no, you can walk in off the street. And to answer your question a little bit further, I think the grand finale exercise helps a little bit with that, because you have to apply all the knowledge from everything that was done previously to successfully do that. And even though it's not an official like result that gets posted anywhere or a requirement, it is something that I think helps kind of tie everything together and show what skills you can apply correctly and what things you need to work on. The one thing I didn't mention though is that the training itself, I use PowerPoints. And as you guys know, when you're in PowerPoint, you have the ability to add notes here. So I give everybody a copy of the PowerPoint of the lecture material that I teach, and I say, write your own notes in there. And then I put all that stuff on a thumb drive, and they walk out of the class with a PowerPoint and all the exercises and all the reference material and their notes on their own version of the class. It's basically their tailored notes for each of the classes.
Morning of day 2 was great. We had all the problems on 5 different systems. Like, you need to capture these as labs. They were just spot on.
Yeah, we have days like that. As you can see today.
We were excited, like all these fires were trying to put out on YouTube.
Oh yeah, wait, you were in the class? That's right. I knew you looked familiar.
Wednesday morning, like all the problems, like, oh, great, we're in the field, we're under fire.
Yeah, and I look forward to that. There are a lot of times where things happen that you don't expect, and sometimes I don't even know how to fix them.
Yeah.
But somebody in the class is going to help me do it, so we make it a group exercise.
It wasn't like we lost power next. Like, every one of those would have been a problem in the field.
Yep. And I tried to capture those in the exercise as much as I could too. So yeah, good.
That's you guys were saying we're sorry. You said sorry. I'm saying thank you.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you, gentlemen, for attending.
Thanks for coming.
Don't forget.
Hopefully you found it useful.
Don't forget to fill out the surveys. They're very important.